You are listening to the Better 2 podcast with DM Needham. Hi gang, Donna here. Thanks for tuning into the Better 2 podcast. Today's guest is Trenton Hudson. He is an animator who is part of the Riot Comedy brand, and they have an episode of Real Ballers that has just come out this week. But more than that, he also does stand-up comedy, and he owns the Korma Coffee Company, which is a date-based coffee company. And he explains why he wanted to make coffee out of date seeds. We explore that. We explore his journey from Missouri to Los Angeles and all points in between, and how he decided that the security of a finance job was not where his heart was, and how he wanted to explore his true passion, which was animation, because he had loved drawing since he was a kid. So it's an interesting conversation. And yes, as always, we take many twists and turns. So I hope you enjoy the show today. Hi, Trent. How are you doing today?
Hey, what's up, Don? I'm fantastic. How's your day been?
It's been good. It's been, eventful, but it's been good.
Good.
So let's talk a little bit. We're going to go straight into, let's say, this is a redo podcast for people that are listening, that we didn't have to fess up to that, but we had some audio issues. So we're redoing it. So I have to ask, did you watch Mr. Pickles?
Oh my goodness, no, I haven't got around to it yet. I literally have the note. Hang on, it's on here somewhere.
It's okay.
I've taken like so many notes, just from like different, some are business, some are personal, some are, but I just have like little pieces of paper all over my desk that are like, I'm gonna get to it, I promise.
I'm an author.
Because I really do want to watch it.
I get it. I'm an author. I have pieces.
But I'm glad you brought it up, because the note is like, it's getting lost in the shuffle somewhere.
It's totally fine. I have stacks of paper on my desk for plot outlines and everything else, so I completely get it. Totally get it.
Yeah, they just pile up eventually, and sometimes they get lost until someone reminds you to get back to that note you took.
So you started your journey in Missouri, correct?
Yeah. So born and raised in Missouri. Kind of bounced around for a little bit afterwards. So after I graduated high school, I went to Mizzou. So I was still in Missouri then. After I graduated college in 2012, moved to San Diego, lived there for a couple years. And then as I was living in San Diego, that was, whenever I made the decision to jump into cartoons and learn animation and go that route. And then, I moved back to St. Louis, and then just for 2 years. And then I've been in LA since 2016.
And I have to ask this, because I had somebody that actually moved from Virginia to Los Angeles and then LA to San Diego. So he did the reverse thing. And he was talking about how different the two places are.
Polar opposite.
Because San Diego, he said, was very chilled and laid back, as opposed to Los Angeles.
LA's, definitely more busy. We're known for the traffic, and Hollywood is here. But I love San Diego. I loved living there. LA is definitely much more my speed. I love doing my day-to-day living in Los Angeles. I love visiting San Diego. But yeah, I like the speed of Los Angeles. I'm more of a let's get moving type of person.
I mean, it's funny because I've driven in both Los Angeles and New York, and the traffic didn't bother me. But maybe because I live in Chicago, so
because although being I haven't spent much time in Chicago, but my experience in Chicago was kind of like my experience on the East Coast and places like New York, where the traffic it's heavy, but people know how to move in it. We're in LA. I'm like, I feel like the traffic is worse here than it is anywhere, because people are just they're not in a hurry. They don't care. They're chilling, they're relaxing. Whereas New York, everyone's like on their horn and like, let's move. It looks like a locomotive in New York. Everything's moving in unison. In LA, people are zoned out here.
In Chicago, they raised the speed limit on our interstates to, I think, 70 at some places. And before, people were doing 70 when it was 55, and now people are doing much higher. It's like, okay, it's a racetrack. Let's go.
That's how it is in LA whenever it's traffic permitting, right?
Yeah. So the only thing I will say, and this is the last thing about driving in LA, is when I was out there, I'm so glad I didn't have a stick shift because the hills in
Yeah.
Hollywood were
Oh yeah.
just
Oh yeah.
monster.
Yeah, no doubt. Although, last thing about traffic, it doesn't bother me anymore. I got an Audible subscription a couple years ago, and since then, I don't really care because now I can, get a lot of value in being in the car. Sometimes I'm like, man, I wish this drive was 10 more minutes. I'm trying to finish this chapter real quick.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so it doesn't bother me anymore. But it took me a while to get used to it. But now it's all good.
Although now I got to add something because I worked in claims. I did motorcycle losses for California.
Hmm.
And this one guy was, it's legal there, not many other places, to lane split.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is insane. My insurance telling me how traffic is at a dead stop, and somebody opened
Hmm.
their car door. He went flying. He
Yeah.
managed to land on his feet. I do not know how.
That that's impressive.
It was, but yeah, when I found that, I was like, you can actually drive down the lane between cars without a
You
problem.
can you can drive down the lanes. It takes a absolutely how awful of a person do you have to be to open your door just because you're mad this person's on a motorcycle and you're sitting still.
I had a claim once where this guy got road rage because somebody was driving on the shoulder, so he decided to pull his car out onto the shoulder
Mhm.
to block him. The guy went around the car, and then the other guy chased him on the shoulder, and then they got in an accident. And here's the funny thing: I had to deny the claim because it was an intentional act, and your policy doesn't cover for intentional acts.
Oh, that's amazing.
But nobody thinks that he was like, well, he was in the wrong because he was driving on the shoulder, and I'm like, you did the same thing.
What if it's an emergency? What if his pregnant wife is in the car? You never know.
Exactly.
I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe I shouldn't, but I like to.
How do I say this? Maybe he was being Karen way before Karen ever took place.
Indeed, the original Karen.
Yes, this was in the 90s, almost 2000. So yeah. So we
Yeah.
didn't cut. We were not talking about that. So you got into animation, and what has your animation journey been like?
So my animation journey, kind of unique. It was literally so when I was living in San Diego, I was working as a financial advisor. Um, didn't like my job at all, and I worked for a great company. I loved the people that I worked with. The people that I worked with were like the only reason that I even tried to make it work for as long as I did. I did it for like a year, but just because of them, because they I had a great management team that really wanted me to be successful, and I learned a lot from them. But at the end of the day, I didn't like the work that I was doing day to day. I didn't like getting up early in the morning and going to meetings for other people. And at the time, I also wasn't really that much of a morning person. Now I transform myself into one. I get up at like 5 every day. I'm one of those people now. But and but yeah, I didn't like what I was doing, and so I decided that I was gonna do what I wanted to do, and I knew, I always kind of gravitated towards entertainment, and I loved comedy, and me and my brothers, we love to crack jokes, make fun of each other, and everything in the entire world. We think everything is funny and everything can be made a joke about. And you have those conversations with your friends all the time where we should do this or we should do this, we should start a show, we should make cartoons, or we should have our own reality show, whatever it may be, right? We all kind of have those conversations, but they never go anywhere.
Yeah.
And me and my brothers, we just decided to take it serious. One day I called my brother Dylan, and I'm in San Diego, he's living in Missouri, and I tell him, I'm like, yo, I'm gonna quit doing what I'm doing, I don't like it, I'm gonna pursue comedy. I want to make cartoons, I'm going to do this and this and this. And he's like, man, I would love to do that, we've always talked about making cartoons. So literally that day, um we decided that that's what we were going to do. So we started looking at what kind of animation software we needed to make the cartoons we wanted to make. And that was what we did. So we how we made it happen from there, we didn't really have the resources at hand to make it happen. So we grew up like poor our whole lives, so we knew how to be resourceful and make things happen. So we got a Best Buy credit card, and we bought 3 computers, maxed out the credit card, and then bootlegged our animation software from the internet because we didn't have any money left over. We've paid for it since then. It's all
Okay.
good. It's all good.
Okay.
Um, otherwise, yeah, I would just lie. I'd be like, oh yeah, so we just got the animation software, but now we bootlegged it because we didn't have any money. But sometimes that's we had to be resourceful, and I don't
Yeah.
condone that, but we had to do what we had to do. And but yeah, just taught ourselves how to animate from YouTube and watching online tutorials all over the place. And anytime we would run into an issue, we would just, YouTube it, or, go to the company's website and look in their forums. And they also had tutorials on there for, how to, do different things. So everything we did was self-taught. And it was just, we took a year and a half of just learning how to animate, developing a show, trying to come up with characters that had, good, funny qualities, learning how to write and actually, tell a story kind of the right way. And, so once we got to where we were, good enough, and I don't mean like good by any means, I mean good enough to make the characters move, and that's pretty much it. We started putting out content. And you can, if you watch our old YouTube stuff, you can see this huge learning curve of, episode 1 is everything about it is bad, the animation is bad, the writing is bad, the jokes are bad. But then, as you watch, episode after episode, you're like, okay, now I can tell these guys are doing this as they go and learning, and
Mhm.
there's just this whole, the animation gets so much better, the writing gets better, it gets way funnier. But so we did this show on YouTube for 6 months, and we were putting out 2 episodes a week every week. We did 50 episodes in 6 months, and we were keeping up with what was happening in current events. So it wasn't like we could backlog these and just sit on them and release them as we please. We were putting out episodes every Monday and Thursday, and we didn't start on Thursday's episode until Monday's episode came out. And so it was, after we put Monday's episode out, a lot of, doing the promotional stuff online, telling people about it, blasting it out there as much as we can. And then we write Thursday's episode and, you know, rewrite it, edit it, whatever, record voices, start working on animation, draw any new characters, background settings we have to have. A lot of sleepless nights, a lot of,
Caffeine.
and yeah, yeah, a lot of energy poured out. Um, but that was great because that got us on the radar of Comedy Central. And so, 6 months after our first episode on YouTube, we were in their office
Wow.
in Los Angeles, just some kids in Missouri making cartoons. And, 6 months later, we had a meeting with Comedy Central. Um, and then a couple weeks after that meeting, we flew out to LA. We're back in Missouri. They call us and they're like, yeah, we want to develop this show with you guys and take it further. So we worked with them on it for 2 years and did it on their digital platforms, their website, Snapchat channel, all that. And that was how we got started. And then Comedy Central paid us, and we moved to California and bought the animation software and started making things happen. But that was how we got started. It was, a year and a half of just learning. And I think, the hardest part of any journey that you're on when you're trying to pursue anything that, what your dream, whatever, um it's hard to keep your mental state right and keep that grind going whenever, like I said, a year and a half of just learning. So this isn't, we're not putting content out, we're not seeing interactions from fans, likes, nothing. It's just sitting in a room. It's like going to school. So you're not seeing any tangible kind of progress. Whereas, after we launch on YouTube, and, you can track your progress by, how many people are coming to watch our videos, how many new subscribers are we getting each week. You have all these metrics, but whenever you're, just in the learning process, you spend a year and a half of not doing anything
Well,
except, learning.
and even initially when you first launch, you're still, you got to build that following. So
Yeah,
even
yeah, yeah,
initially,
yeah,
it's kind of like,
absolutely. Yeah.
so, and you're
But I
talking about,
think,
go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, as long as, you can keep the long term, look at the big picture and remember why you're doing it and, what the long term goal is, it's easier to keep yourself in that right mind state. But it's still like a everyday kind of balance of, man, I don't feel like working on this right now, I barely slept last night, or whatever, the case may be. But, if you can do that, you're golden.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I was talking to somebody earlier today, and she was talking about how, you know, she had a banking job, she had security, and she grew
Mhm.
up with a very bad childhood where, the power was shut off at a time.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
they're living by candlelight. And she told
Mhm.
herself, I'm never going to be in this position again. And the only reason I bring this up is so she gets in the financial end, she's in a banking job. And at 28, she's like, this isn't for me. I'm going to go
Yeah.
back to school and I'm going to start my own company. So she did. And she's
Mhm.
60 now and she's successful and everything. But it's like, I think because you were saying you were in finance. When we
Mhm.
initially when we initially think that we're going to go into the working world, well, we need that security.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a chance to.
Yeah.
I worked as a PA or with a PA on a movie set here, and then I did some production stuff on an independent TV show. But when the
Mhm.
TV show wrapped, instead of going back into the if maybe I can get a job as a PA, I want security. So I'm gonna go into the insurance industry,
Mhm.
which honestly, like you, it wasn't something I was passionate about. It was soul
Yeah.
sucking, and
Yeah. Yeah.
you go ahead.
Sometimes if it doesn't resonate with you, is if you really dislike the job that you're going to every day, you got to find a way to to break away from that and do something else. And that's a lot of what it was for me. Whenever I was making the decision to do this, and like I said, worked for a great company, a great management team around me, but I wasn't great at it by any means, but I also didn't put the effort into it because I was never liking it from the get-go. Like the whole time I was like, man, did I make the right decision taking this job offer?
Yeah,
um and then I'm thinking about this, and time's going on, and I'm just thinking, whenever I finally made the decision, it was literally, I was 23 at the time, and I just thought, when I'm like 50 years old and I wake up and I look back at the decisions that I make, if I try this and fail, I can be okay with that. I can be okay with that, because if I don't try, first of all, let me say failure has never been on my mind with anything I've ever done. I've been lucky enough to always, kind of have that confidence that, like, if I can see someone else do it, I can make it happen too. Um, but my thing is, if I, let's say I stick the financial advisor thing, and even everything goes well, I make a lot of money, I live good, everything's hunky dory, right? I'm still gonna be like 50 years old and wake up and be like, man, I could be 25 years into what I love right now, and I didn't do it because I was scared in the moment, and
yeah,
that would kill me. Like, I wouldn't be able to functionally like
yeah.
live proper. I mean, I guess, I'm one of those people. It's also like never too late to start. So but then I'm like, then I wake up at 50 and I'm like, man, now I regret this. Now I have to do it at 50 instead of at 25, when I have all the energy in the world to do the things and try to make those things happen. So it was, all that. Don't want to regret the choices that I make, and I can handle failure. Like, that doesn't bother me. I'll risk it all if I have to to make something that I really want happen. I can live with, coming up short, but not trying, um yeah, can't go that route.
I think a lot of people. I mean, that's the thing. The younger generation, you guys are a little bit more fearless than Generation X. Generation X is kind of like,
Yeah.
well, we were kind of
Yeah.
instilled that you have to have this, you
Yeah.
have to do this.
I love these Gen Z kids now. So I'm a millennial, but this next generation, these people right now that are, especially the ones that are like 16 to 23, the moves that I see them make, I'm just like, you guys are killing it. Like, this is the generation that is like changing the labor force. They're not, they hate working for people. They won't do it. They trade crypto, flip NFTs, start businesses online, do whatever it takes, because they also grew up in a world where everyone told them, you know, it's your fault if you're not making any money. It's your fault if you have to work
Yeah.
this sucky job. You don't have to do that. So, and I think it's an amazing thing. And these kids are like just out here killing the game. And I think they're going to be a really cool generation to watch and see how they change the world, and how, and they
Well,
also grew up in an economy where, like, in America, it's hard to make it here if you're not a business owner. Like, it's
right.
hard, it's hard to make it working for somebody else. There's only a handful of jobs that pay high level, where you can work for someone else and really make a lot of money.
I mean, when you look at the future, they're actually working to them getting a job for themselves is the best thing they can do, because automation is going to come in and it's going to totally flip the workforce in
Facts.
the next 20
Facts.
years.
I try to tell people that, and like anyone listening, like, if I don't have kids, but if you have kids, you need to be preparing them for a world where most of our jobs no longer exist. And I mean, like, everything.
Yeah, I
Like
mean, I could
everything.
what you and I do, the animation, the novel
Hmm.
writing, that can be done. A podcast, an AI could interview you. I mean,
Hmm.
there's almost everything that can be taken out, and automation will run with it. And I go back to, we talked about South Park last time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there was that one episode where they're like, they took our jobs. Well, the whole fact of the
Yeah.
matter is it's not people taking your jobs. It's
Yeah.
automation that's going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Although, we're at a really weird point in this because over the last century, the technological advances that we've seen, transform our economy, all the jobs that they've taken, they've replaced with more. I think for every
Mhm.
job that's been taken, like 1.2 has been added, something like that. But now we're at a point to where we have AI that you look at what it's going to be able to do to manufacturing, that's not going to create more jobs.
Mm-mm.
More different companies maybe, but those are all going to be run by a handful of people. Like this factory that had 100 people working there, 75 of them are gone now.
Yeah.
And maybe this new technology allows, one or two more companies to pop up, but that's still only 25 people there, 25 people there. So you're still down 25 people, and it's going to expand and balloon. So everyone's got to figure out a way to adapt to this, because as we saw over the last 2 years, the government for damn sure is not coming to help you.
No, I know. I
no
know.
one's coming to
Go ahead.
no one's coming to help you. So we better start thinking about it. We got a couple years to figure it out, but it's coming.
Well, and the other thing about this is some technology and some things are going to be obsolete. Fun fact: I used to work at a graveyard job at a factory making drinking straws.
Hmm.
Okay, and I'm sitting here thinking my job basically was the straw came out in this one long chute, and then it went through a cutter, and then
Hmm.
my job was to pick it up with gloves and put it in a bin, and then it would go get wrapped or not, or put it boxed.
Hmm.
A computer or a robot can do all that. They don't
Oh
need,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
then
My my fir-
and then roll that back. Straws have a nasty reputation now.
yeah. So my first job was working at a grocery store. That was what I did in high school. Um, those jobs are all gone. Like you don't need a person to stock the shelf. Robots are gonna do that. Their Amazon Fresh and Whole Foods are gonna have them soon. I
Mhm.
saw I saw people, like I was in Amazon Fresh a couple weeks ago, and these people in there literally training robots to do their job. And I think a lot of them don't even know it because I saw it happen with my own eyes. And I'm like, this little thing right here is replacing you soon.
My very first job was McDonald's, and we had to do everything manually because drive-through
Hmm.
was brand new when I was working there. And now, as soon as they hit a button, the drink starts making itself. I
Hmm.
mean, the worst thing you ever hated to work was lunch rush fry station,
I bet.
because you would get burned. There was a guarantee
Hmm.
you were going to get at least one burn. Now the damn
Yeah.
basket lifts itself up.
Mhm. They also have robots that flip burgers
Yeah.
faster than people do. So
And they're not going to drop.
those are,
Go ahead.
yeah. No, I was gonna say those are already in a handful of places, and they're gonna be literally everywhere within a couple years.
Well, and I was going to say, and they won't drop the burger and then put it back on the grill. I've seen people do that.
I never worked fast food, but if I did, I'd probably do the same thing if I was in a hurry and it's that lunch rush that you're talking
Oh,
about.
and I mean, I did the grocery store thing. I worked on the salad bar, and the stories for the bakery and the salad bar were not very polite. You know,
Yeah.
apple
I worked in
fritters.
the restaurant game for a long time, bartending, and I've seen some stuff go down. I don't never really I never messed with anyone's food.
Mm-mm.
Not in a gross way. Now, if you were rude, I'll make your food take forever. I'll wait forever to ring it. I'll make you have a bad experience if you're gonna come in and be a jerk. But I never did anything gross to anyone's food. But I've seen other people do it,
Yeah,
and I don't have it in me to do something like that. But
I saw somebody bring a
yeah.
pizza back at Chuck E. Cheese, and one of the cooks spit on it because the guy was rude. And I'm just like, really? What? But the apple fritter thing was they took they took the day old donuts and made apple
Hmm.
fritters out of it.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything gross, but this was
Yeah.
cost measures.
Oh, yeah. Recycle, right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna go back to animation, since yes, we're all over the place.
Yeah.
Um, So when you're saying your crude, animation skills, I'm just thinking of the early Simpsons and Terrence and Phillip on South Park. Those are very
It,
crude.
it was more akin to Terrence and Phillip. It wasn't as good as the early Simpsons. Even though the early Simpsons was a little sloppy, it wasn't that good. It was, very, stiff movements, blocky, simply drawn, front facing, not the 3/4 profile like you get from the Simpsons. It's, the front like Terrence and Phillip, South Park. So it was, pretty ugly. But, then we started to figure it out, and eventually we got good enough. Now everything we make is TV quality. But,
Nice.
at the time it was, yeah, quite a learning curve. But it's fun to like go back and look at those episodes and see, how far things have come. And it's like, I go back and watch those episodes sometimes and I'm like, man, how did Comedy Central think this was even good enough to talk to us? Like it, I don't know. I don't know. It was pretty funny, but the production quality was, I think maybe they must have known that, like, okay, these guys are good. They just need a little guidance from us to point them in the right direction. And they did. Like that was, working with Comedy Central was, the such an amazing experience for us because it took everything we were doing up just multiple levels, like immediately. The writing got better, the jokes got tighter, the production quality, the animation. When we were doing stuff on YouTube, we didn't even have background music in the episodes, and it moves by like so slow. It seems kind of boring, and little things like that that you don't realize whenever you're in the beginning process. So, we worked with them for a couple years and literally got a master class in animation production and writing, and that's like we did in 2 years what you can't do in 4 years of college, and instead of paying tuition, we got paid.
I was gonna say, and you got paid for it, so
From working on YouTube cartoons. Now it took 2 years leading up to that, so 2 years of work got us the 2 years of Comedy Central, and then the Comedy Central thing has opened up just door after door for us. So that was how we got our start. That was like I said earlier, YouTube, Comedy Central, but it's been really fun journey. But yeah, the like you said, the animation at the beginning, all bad.
but that's the thing. If you're willing to put the work in and put it out there, put your
Mm-hmm.
take that risk, it's going to
Yeah,
pay off. So
definitely.
let me ask you this: when you were a kid, were you making voices? Were you creating little character voices all the time?
I wasn't, but I was drawing all the time. So I've
Okay.
always been artist, creative type. I used to love drawing anything and everything, cartoons, realistic style. Like I used to, draw little cartoons all the time whenever I was a kid, and do comic strip style sometimes, text bubbles and this and that. And then I've always had an affinity for cartoons. I remember, some of my earliest memories of my life are, it was family tradition to watch The Simpsons every Sunday, right? And this was the time before we can put it on at whatever time we feel like you got to be in front of the TV at 7 p.m., right?
Yeah.
And so I remember, every time, every Sunday we're getting ready to watch The Simpsons, and my dad's always in there ready. He's like, Simpsons are getting on the couch, so we got to run into the living room, everyone, make sure everyone catches because they get on the couch different every episode, so we got to see what they're doing this week, and then watch the new episode. So it kind of started with that, and then South Park came out when I was 7, and I was hooked. I started watching it when I think a year after it came out. I started watching South Park when I was 8 years old, and because season 1, no one knew how huge it was going to be, so Comedy Central wasn't available in anyone's household in America. Um, like 12% of households or less. It was actually might have been closer to 4, but yeah, before South Park blew up, Comedy Central was on the brink of not even existing anymore. And but since once I got a hold of South Park, or maybe once South Park got a hold of me, I've been hooked
Yeah.
ever since. And it's South Park is a huge inspiration for the cartoons that me and my brothers make. I actually, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, I'm a huge fan of all the work that they do. I love their movies that they make. Um, the Broadway play they did, that was great. But yeah, it's cartoons were I always kind of had an idea that I want to be a cartoonist whenever I grow up, because I just love to draw and love to I love telling stories and bringing characters to life. I think bringing the characters to life is probably the funnest part of it, because once you actually you take the time to develop this character, you have a backstory for this character. Like the shows we make, we these characters, we don't just it's not just who they are today. It's why are they who they are. So we have, whole backstories, what was their family life like? What was their household that they grew up in? What are their siblings like? Um, what were they like in high school? And figuring all this out. And then when you write for these characters and you put these ridiculous jokes in, and you're like, nah, this person would do this instead.
That's my character Bible. I know exactly what you're
Nice.
talking
Yes,
about.
yes. Yes. So, you take the time, they seem real at a certain
Hmm.
point, right?
Yeah.
Um, so when we talk about our characters in our show, it's it's not just, we can't just throw funny lines in there. We got to keep it true to who the characters are, and that's always a big part of making sure when we're working on scripts, to keep stories consistent over the length of a season or series, whatever. But yeah, just whenever you're developing these characters, it's a lot of fun. And so yeah, I've always been an artist. That's what I consider myself at heart more than anything. I know I like have different business things going on and this and that, but I've always considered myself an artist. That's who I am.
You did some comedy, did some stand up as well, didn't you?
I do stand up every now and again. Yeah, I actually really love doing stand up. I took quite a hiatus during the pandemic because I live in Los Angeles and all the comedy clubs were closed. It isn't like some other places where things were open, and they just really started to open fully back up. A lot of them, they mask up and whatever, but they're open because for a while, a lot of the comedy clubs out here, they were trying to do these virtual shows, and no thanks. I tuned into one as an audience member to see how it was kind of going to be, and I was like, I don't want any part of this. I don't.
How do you feed
I
how do
love
you feed off the energy? There's no, I mean,
that's the whole thing. That's what I love to do. I love to feed off the audience. I like to get the audience engaged whenever I do my stand up, and sometimes make fun of them or ask them questions, whatever it may be. But yeah, to have that energy, and also whenever I like the pressure of being up on stage, and you have this pressure of these people came here expecting to laugh,
yeah,
so you better make them laugh.
yeah.
But so without that, I feel like doing a virtual show because I can't hear whether they're laughing or not.
No.
Um, so
Well,
I'm just standing up here telling jokes with no pressure.
and then firstly, you don't have the hecklers, but then it would be kind of like watching the Brady Bunch screen. I mean, okay, is somebody
Yeah, yeah,
laughing? I mean,
exactly. Yeah,
because it's not
yeah,
this fuller, it's not the bigger picture that you and I have. It's going to be all these little boxes. So
yeah, yeah,
I couldn't imagine doing that. It would be it would be like shouting into the void.
yeah,
Even though there's
yeah,
people there,
yeah,
it's still, there's no
yeah.
energy.
And for me, I like, that pressure brings out a better performance for me anyway. I don't know, everyone's different, but it forces you into a deeper concentration when you're up on stage, and it'll like that pressure. So I don't know how familiar you are with flow states of consciousness and things like that, and the listeners, but whenever you get into a flow state, it's essentially like your highest performing state, where basically like some parts of your brain shut down to where you can just focus, and it's like whenever you're doing important tasks and you're just moving and grooving and time is just
Hmm.
non-existent, right? So when you're on stage and you have that pressure, immediate feedback and pressure are actually both triggers of flow. So those two aspects help you get into a flow state and concentrate deeper. So for me, like when I have that going on and I'm on stage, time just flies by, because when you're nervous and you're unprepared, it seems like you're on stage forever. Like I did a 6 minute set not long ago, and it went great. But whenever they gave me like the light for 1 minute left, I was like, oh my God, I've been just up here just
Yeah.
telling jokes. And I was like, I got 2 minutes left of material because that's what's timed out in my head. I was like, I gotta wrap up 2 minutes of jokes in 1 minute now and see how I can navigate through this. I'm literally like sitting here telling jokes, saying jokes out loud and thinking this in the back of my mind, and then I got into it and it went really well. But without, I don't know, I think if I was doing this screen stand up set, I think I would have I think it would have distracted me and I would have got thrown off because I don't have the pressure and the, the performing and the energy from the audience. That's what I love, is just the energy that, a room brings to you. Um, so yeah, I sat out the virtual shows.
Well, and what you're saying about flow makes total sense because I think back to me, I was known sometimes in school for procrastinating. I do my
Too.
report the night before. Destination
Same,
procrastination.
always.
But here's the thing: you got it
Yeah,
done because you were under that pressure and you knew you could
always.
get it done.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
there was the
Yeah.
rush. There was the rush of I'm going to get this done.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I get
Yeah.
it. I get it. I totally get it.
I was the
So,
same, always.
and I don't know why that is. It would drive my mom nuts, but it's like that's how I function and wouldn't get it.
Yeah, same. Some of us are just wired that way.
I think so. I think it's the creative side of us. The people that aren't creative
It, it,
don't get
it
that.
yeah, it's like you said with that, the pressure of that rush, because you literally procrastinate. You think, okay, this is gonna take me 2 full hours to get done, and I gotta be at school. I gotta leave for school at 7:30 in the morning. I can get up at 5:30 and get this done, and get it
Yeah.
done, and it'll be fine, and get a B+ on it.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that. But
Me too. Me too.
I mean, I really hate to say it, but because I am a writer, but in college, my first college paper, my midterm or my term paper, I had the dean of the English department. And I thought to
Hmm.
myself, she's not going to have time to read my paper. So I put it in, I wrote up this paper and it was about the PMRC, which was the Tipper Gore run Let's Label Music with Warning Labels. So that was going to be
Hmm.
my big project. So I wrote a half-ass paper and I gave it to my typist because back then you didn't have your PC, and gave it to my
Yeah.
typist. She ended up adding the words because I didn't have enough words, turned it in, and I passed the class.
Nice work. Nice work.
But I mean, it was one of those things where it's like, I know she's not going to read it. So why
Yeah.
put the effort in if you know
No,
she's not going to read it?
I've done the same thing. Honestly, like school, I don't know. School isn't that important. You're not supposed to spend all your time doing homework. Like when I was in high school, especially, I never did homework. A lot of my teachers didn't assign homework, but the ones that did, especially like in math class, because I was always really good at math. And my high school math teacher, so this is probably the best example. My high school math teacher, tests were 75% of our grade,
Okay.
tests and quizzes. Homework made up 25% of your grade. My homework grade was a big fat F.
Oh, okay.
Like fat F. Like I think I got less than 40% of my homework done.
Oh,
The homework that I did was right. I
mm-hmm,
just, so, you're in class and we go through the lesson, and then you have, a little bit of time to work on your homework before, the
mm-hmm.
class gets out. Whatever I got done in class, that's what I turned in the next day, always. But my
Okay.
teacher wasn't, she was okay with it because she knew that I knew the stuff and just didn't want to do the homework, because I was in high school. I got better things to do, like spend time with my family and friends and play basketball and be outside, and not doing homework,
Yeah.
especially homework that I know the answers to. I just don't want to take the time to do it. Um, but yeah, as long you just pass classes, just do good enough.
I mean, and
I don't know.
I'm not.
I don't have kids. Don't take my advice on school and stuff. It's not as important as everyone makes it out to be. That's all you need to know. You
Well,
just
I
you
mean,
just need to do pretty well.
and you need to figure out your teachers. I hate to say this, and I know any teacher listening is going to be like, "You two are just bad people."
We're
But
out here speaking truth for people.
my senior, okay,
You got to know your teachers.
my senior English teacher, she loved Scotland. She had been to Scotland numerous times. When we first
Hmm.
started, people, so one of the seniors had a friend that had her the year before. And she's
Hmm.
like, all we have to do is get her talking about Scotland and we won't do anything else for the rest of the class. Okay. So each time we always managed to get her going on a tangent about Scotland and off she went.
Brilliant.
And I only had her for half a semester or for half a year because I had a senior English credit already. So I got out a term.
Hmm.
I have never written a term paper. I have managed to never fully write a term paper.
Nice work.
And my art teacher, my junior art teacher, I swear the man was doing coke in class because he had a Vicks inhaler,
Probably.
and he would sit there and go, questions.
Hilarious.
I mean, he would just pause and
Yeah, and like school, it's some classes are important, but most classes in school, they don't teach you anything. They don't teach you to think critically. They just teach you how to memorize facts and forget it after you take a test.
yeah. I mean,
So
because half the stuff, I mean, I've been out of school for a long time, but half the stuff I learned, I've not used. Instead of teaching us things that matter, like cooking, cleaning, not that cleaning
mhm,
really matters, but how to change your tire.
yeah.
I mean, I know we have
I
services to
can't
do
I
that.
can't believe you found use out of half the things you learned in school. I'm impressed by that because I don't use hardly any of it. Like
Um,
I didn't learn, like, especially like high school. I didn't learn a ton of like tangible, valuable things. Um, College definitely, because I had some college professors that really pushed me. That's the thing. I didn't have enough teachers in high school that pushed me and forced me to think critically and, kind of think about things in different ways, and how to analyze things deeper. Um, and yeah,
well, like my
I didn't have
chemistry,
anyone pushing me like that.
my chemistry teacher, my senior year in high school, when it came to the final exams, there was juniors and seniors in the class. He gave us all the answers for our exam, and he says this to us: "If I catch you cheating, it's an automatic fail." Okay. So he goes in his office after he hands out the test. His office is adjacent to the classroom. He goes in there.
Mhm.
Once one person's done, he makes them stand up by his desk up front. So basically, getting cover to anybody that wants to cheat, and then calls all the seniors that night to tell us our grade, whether we pass the class or not, which was really nice because yes, I was skating on that one and I did pass, and
Yeah,
he called me to tell me I passed, but I didn't cheat. But it was just one of those things where it's like you had the opportunity to cheat.
yeah.
So
I would have taken it in high school. I would have taken
I took a
it.
couple. I mean, when I say I didn't cheat, I cheated a little, but I mean I didn't
Mhm.
full blown cheat because I ended up with a C. If I really
Yeah.
would have cheated, you cheated and made a C. Come on, I didn't
He
really fully
cheated off
cheat.
the dumb kids.
Yeah, but I mean, what teachers do that? I mean, are you
Yeah.
helping the kids? Or you know? But besides that, since we went down the stay in school, kids, it may not be what you want to do right now. And I thought about dropping out, but trust me, you don't want to go the truancy route. Your parents wouldn't be
Do
happy
stay
with
in
you.
school. Just make sure you balance real life with school, because
Yeah,
school's not real life and it doesn't prepare you for it.
no. Well, and we'll go back to computers for a second. We were learning Fortran, which is an antiquated language at this point. I
Mm.
managed to put the school board computer, because it was all on, they were all hooked together, into a massive loop for
Yeah.
3 days because I did one wrong thing when I was making my banner. hmm
Hmm.
And then I got relegated to a Commodore 64 for a while. But that's school in the
Good stuff.
80s. What can I say?
Right.
So you have a coffee company, eh?
Yeah, we actually make our coffee out of date seeds. So kind of interesting how this one got started. I got to go back a little over a decade. So whenever I
Wow.
was 20, I had a heart attack, and
How do you have a heart
yeah,
attack at 20?
one of those fluke things. So I have two aneurysms in my LAD. So
Okay.
maybe you don't know what an aneurysm is. Probably some of your listeners don't, because I
I
didn't know what it was
haven't.
until it happened to me.
I have one.
Okay, so
Mhm.
I didn't know what it was, what an aneurysm was. I knew they were dangerous because it killed Bruce Lee. That was all I knew about aneurysms, right? So an aneurysm is essentially, for those of you who listening, it's when the walls of your artery wall weakens and it'll expand like a balloon, and so your blood doesn't flow straight through there. It can tumble in there and it'll clot, and then it'll cause a blockage. If like that's what killed Bruce Lee. He had an aneurysm in his brain. So I had an aneurysm in my LAD, and so I had two aneurysms there. One of them completely closed up. They put a stent in the other one. Um, Although that one actually closed up a little over a year. 15 months later, I had another heart attack.
Oh,
But so the bottom half of my LAD, which feeds blood to that lower left, the bottom left half of your heart. So that quarter of your heart right there, the LAD supplies blood to that. There's no blood flowing through my LAD anymore. But before I had my first heart attack, my heart had already began developing feeder arteries around that. Um, because otherwise I wouldn't be here right now. So
yeah.
someone's looking out for me. I don't know what I'm doing right, but something. Um, But so yeah, my heart developed feeder arteries around that, and actually my heart now gets complete adequate amount of blood flow, um, super healthy. My heart suffered almost no damage whatsoever from two heart attacks, which is a miracle
Nice.
because whatever damage is done when you have a heart attack, that
Yeah.
doesn't repair. That's you're stuck with that. So I'm incredibly blessed, lucky. So basically, I can do, I have normal heart function. I can play basketball, work out all day, whatever it is. But caffeine gives me chest pain. So I pretty well avoid coffee, but I love coffee. I love the flavor of it. I love the smell of it. I love having coffee in the morning or on cold days, whatever. Um, but coffee does love me back. So I happened to be eating dates one day, which I have dates like all the time. I love the medjool dates. And I just, found myself throwing away a lot of seeds. And I'm like, there's got to be something I can use these for, right? So I just Googled, what can I use these date seeds for? Um, you can roast them and turn them into coffee. So I
Nice.
started making it for myself and I loved it. But I got tired of making it and I wanted to buy it in the store, but I couldn't find it anywhere. So I was like, okay, well, here's a chance for me to provide something for others because I know if I love this and I was looking for this, then there's other people looking for this too because like 40% of Americans suffer from heart disease. I mean, I know they lump a bunch of stuff in there that's not like super serious. Like
Yeah.
they throw like hypertension in there, and that's just like slightly high blood pressure. And but either way, you should probably be avoiding caffeine if you do have hypertension. But that's your choice. I'm not here to convince anyone. I'm just here to provide something for people who want something healthier or whatever the case may be, or pregnant women can't have caffeine or shouldn't anyway. So, this is safe for them. Ton of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, super good for you. So it was literally like everything that I was looking for. You don't really get a caffeine buzz from it because of no caffeine, obviously. Although for me, that was never an issue because caffeine never did anything for me. I could literally drink a cup of coffee right now and go to sleep and sleep sound. Um, so I always drank coffee for the taste. Um, but yeah, so this is, akin to it gives you natural energy. So it's like if you got up in the morning and ate an apple and an orange, right? And then, you have your vitamins and minerals for the first part of the day and you're ready to rock. But so yeah, this is, you know, just a little healthier alternative to your traditional coffee. It's called Korma, Korma. So our website is kormacafe.com. Got a handful of flavors on there. We got a classic, a light roast. We got toasted coconut. Right now we have pumpkin spice, which that's almost gone. And we're not getting any more this year. So, but yeah, so it was something that, I really wanted to, it was something that I believed in because I had already been making it for myself. And so it was really a chance for me to help others who were, maybe in situations like me or whatever it may be, and put a great product out there that's actually like really good for people because I eat really healthy like 99% of the time, although during the holidays I'm not near as disciplined. But
Yeah.
the other 10 and a half months out of the year, basically, if it doesn't come from the earth, I don't eat it. So it's just fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, whatever else. I do eat animals. I'm from the Midwest. I'm never gonna stop eating burgers. That's about the only time I eat bread though, is when I eat burgers. Um, so I'm one of those people, like I have a pretty big problem with the things at the grocery store. I'm one of those people, like I do all my shopping on the outside aisles. So just the produce, the
Yeah.
deli, that's pretty much it. I don't go up and down the aisles where all the sugar, refined carbs, nonsense.
That chemical shitstorm.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So I didn't want to say it, but let's call it what it is.
It's my pod. It's my show. I'll say it.
Do you? Um, but yeah, so everything that I put out there is always gonna be, whether it's my cartoons, I do cartoons that I think are funny. I don't do what I think the audience is gonna want. With the coffee, I do what is good for us because it's something that I believe in. I don't put garbage in my body. I'm not gonna try to sell garbage to other people. So, our coffee, it's literally just organic date seeds roasted and grinded up, and there's chicory root in it, which chicory root is a dark bitter herb. It's actually super healthy for you. Like fiber, it's got prebiotics in it, although we don't say like our coffee has prebiotics in it because it's a small amount of chicory in it, but it's actually super popular in New Orleans, but it makes
I
the
was gonna
coffee a little
say.
bit more bold, and
Yeah,
it goes great with the date coffee. Like it pairs so well together. It's delicious. But yeah, it's like all, it's organic dates, everything's sustainable. Just, you know, the toasted coconut is just date seeds and coconut. Like there's no sugar, there's no whatever else they're gonna throw in there. Um, so everything that I put out there is stuff that I stand behind and I love. So I know there's other people that are, you know, conscious of, what they put in their body and want that, same kind of healthy aspect of it. So I'm happy to be able to put that out there for people.
the chicory, what you're saying about New Orleans is very true. I mean,
Mhm.
growing up, that's all that, community coffee and chicory. So,
Yeah.
and my husband, when we went down there, he tried it. He's just like, "What is this? This is like slap you in your face," because it was
I
so
don't like
strong.
chicory by itself. No,
Mm-mm.
it's very bitter, very bitter.
Well, and he was a Sumatra drinker, so he liked a
Okay.
bold coffee, but this was
Yeah.
just,
Well, it doesn't taste like coffee. That's the thing.
yeah,
It's like coffee's cousin, right? It's coffee's like lesser liked cousin.
yeah, yeah.
But when you pair that chicory, a little bit of chicory with, the date seeds, because the date seeds are a little sweeter than coffee. They're quite a bit less bitter. It's not, just the date seeds by themselves doesn't really provide a strong coffee flavor. But when you pair with chicory and the right amounts of each, I love it. Like I drink it all the time, and not just because it's mine, because I would rather not drink it because
Yeah.
cutting in my inventory. I'm like Scarface. I'm getting high on my own supply.
But if you like it and it works,
No, I love it actually. I truly do. I drink it like almost every single day. And
so
actually, you know what? I got hip to making so I don't know if you've ever had Vietnamese egg coffee,
mm-mm,
but so it's basically you take the yolk of the egg and with a little cream and you whip it and then pour it into hot coffee. So you get your coffee, you want your coffee to be like at a boil, pour it in your cup. But so in mine, I do the Korma date coffee and I'll do an egg and I'll do some organic coconut cream and some honey and whip those together and then pour it in my coffee. So good. It's delicious. And it's like whenever you're busy,
mm-hmm,
it's a really good like afternoon kind of snack because you got the heaviness from the egg. So you got protein, you got the vitamins and minerals from the egg and the coffee and everything. So whenever you don't feel like cooking and you're in the middle of stuff and you just want to take a few minutes to make a coffee that'll get you kind of full, the Vietnamese egg coffee, the way I make it is it's where it's at.
I've heard
And I was
people
I was skeptical at first too. I was skeptical at first too, but kind
see.
of knocked my socks off. I'm kind of
I don't.
obsessed.
I'm a teetotaler. I like tea. I've tried
Okay, yeah,
coffee.
yeah.
I
Hmm.
am not a coffee drinker.
I
However,
get it.
I do have a friend who she can of butter in her coffee,
Hmm.
and she said it's really good.
Can
And
of
I've
butter,
heard
okay.
and I've heard other people put regular butter in their coffee,
I've
and
heard of regular butter in the coffee. The can of butter.
it's an adventure.
See, I don't think I want to get up in the morning and start with some canned butter coffee. See, I could do can of butter in the date coffee in the evening, so I get no caffeine and it's like a wind down. That would
Yeah.
probably work.
Yeah. Well, that's when she did it. It wasn't first thing in the morning.
Oh, okay,
It
okay,
was in the evening.
okay,
Yeah, it
okay.
wasn't let's start the day with
I
some.
thought you were like on the way to work with the thermos having some can of butter coffee.
No, Towley is not in the car with you with that. You want
Okay,
to get
okay.
high? No, it's not
I'm just
happening.
checking. I'm just checking.
It's not happening. Not happening. So, where do you see yourself going as far as projects? I mean, you have some in the pipeline, I know, and I know you had a
Mhm,
meeting and that didn't turn out exactly. So,
mhm.
where do you see maybe in the next 5 years? Where are you hoping to go with this?
So there's a few things that we're actually working on right now. So I know like you and I talked about a meeting that I had with a net one of the networks out here, and they passed on one of our shows. But we're actually like we're always working on shows, and we have relationships with like pretty much every streamer out here, every streamer network that's a fit for our brand anyway. Like we know people over there. We've been out here for we've been out here for 5.5 years grinding now. um, so we're actually working on another show with a couple former NBA players, and
Nice.
there's a like super. I don't want to say who is thinking about producing it, but very big name in comedy, but their production company had some notes for us. And then, one of the managers of one of the people that's working on the show with us was like, yo, if this production company produces this and you all get those notes back, they, this company, this other comedy network over here wants to hear a pitch for this show. So
Nice.
it's just, we're always on it. But also at the same time, we're doing a lot of independent stuff right now. So we've been making this show called Real Ballers for a couple of years now. And we actually just took a break and we're on hiatus for a while during the pandemic and focusing on a couple other projects. But we actually have another episode coming out tomorrow. And it's basically like we make fun of all the drama that's going on in the NBA, right? So we're diehard NBA fans. So we make fun of them pretty hard. Um, but so we're working on that. And then we're actually going to launch. So we have, we put all of our stuff out on our social media and stuff, but we're going to actually launch some NFTs soon for our uh, shows that we have out and get pretty deeply involved in that space. And we have a couple other really cool projects that we're working on right now too. So it's the next 5 years. I think our main focus is always going to be growing our own brand. So our brand is called Riot Comedy. That's what we make our cartoons under. So it's always going to be growing that, because at the end of the day, you know, Hollywood yeah, I was saying, over the next 5 years, I love being in Hollywood and being a part of this, but it's like when you're doing so much running around trying to, pitch shows and stuff like this, it's like at the end of the day, you might have the single greatest show ever thought created. You might have potentially the greatest show ever made in human history in your hands, but you could take it to an executive that doesn't give a shit about it. And so they say no. And that's just a game that I don't put a ton of effort into playing. I have some effort for it because I think it'd be amazing to, have a show on Comedy Central or Netflix or whatever it may be. But at the same time, it's like I don't put my future in other people's hands. I only have X amount of energy to dedicate to that, and that is not a ton of energy, because I can dedicate my own energy to building Riot Comedy and getting strengthening our following. And we have a really good following behind the cartoons that we make already, between the when we were doing the YouTube show and we have this NBA show. um so we have a strong following, so it's just strengthening that's our focus. Is, I think, 5 years, it's tough to say because of the way technology is changing. So
Right.
it's
It was
but
random. I mean, you don't even have to go all the way 5 years. It was just a number I pulled out.
no, I know. It's just so I mean, I'll say a couple movies in the works, and a bigger brand name for Riot Comedy. That's the next 5 years. And exploring the NFT space and different things. We're big into technology over here, so we're always trying to learn about what's the latest in crypto, NFTs, and things like that whenever we have time to dedicate to that. um so and I'm looking at different ways that different artists are funding their projects right now. And the NFT space is, it's amazing what some of these people are doing right now. um Selling part of the rights of their work or album artwork and different things like that. um so the way that changes, who knows what's going to happen in the next 5 years for us. So, but it's, still working, taking advantage of opportunities, creating content, and being funny. And we have a brand of comedy that is really funny and offensive to some people. um but there's a lot of people that do jokes that are, kind of push the line, but they do them for shock value and it's inauthentic. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And we always are aware of, we don't do anything that's cheap. If we do a dumb joke or something that is, shocking, it's because it fits into who the character is in the show, right? It's not, we don't say things just to say them to get a reaction out of people. That's never, what we do. But our comedy, though, is, like I said, we think everything is funny. Like if your dog died this morning, that's not actually funny at all.
Oh
But that doesn't
boy.
mean you can't make a joke about it. That doesn't mean there's not a funny element there. Because when I was in the hospital with my first heart attack, I was in the hospital for a week. literally not knowing what's going to happen long term or even this week because we didn't have any answers. Me and my brothers were still making jokes about it.
Yeah.
So, that's who we are. And was it funny that I was laying in the hospital for a week? Obviously not. It was terrifying, but that doesn't mean it's not funny at all.
No. And I mean,
There's
sometimes
there,
laughter is the only thing that gets you through.
absolutely. And I think there's two things that I always argue for when it comes to making jokes about anything, and that's one of them. It's that laughter helps us get through these times. That's how a lot of people cope with things. That's how I cope with things. um and also, I think as comedians, I think we have a responsibility to push the envelope and force people to think about thought-provoking things that they don't want to think about. I think comedians and musicians both play that role in society. Of we have to push the culture forward. We have to force people to talk about things that they're afraid to talk about, because people are afraid to talk about anything controversial. People are afraid to talk about issues that are real life issues that are affecting human beings, because they're afraid they're going to say the wrong thing or offend somebody, or the subject is taboo, or we don't have the courage to talk about it because we're not strong enough to admit that this is reality. But comedians and musicians, we can force people into thinking about those things and talking about those things. And we also have it's our job and our responsibility to fight against censorship. Like, I never thought in a million years that we would be where we are with cancel culture and telling people what they can and can't say. Like, I grew up listening to rap music, and I remember the first time I heard Eminem, I was like 9 years old. I was hooked. Like, that was all I wanted to listen to. I started listening to Eminem, and then Dr. Dre, and then NWA, and Snoop Dogg, and Tupac, and then Jay-Z and Nas. And so I literally grew up, I remember when people were steamrolling Eminem's albums and protesting against him and this and that. And you know the gangster rap era, and how big of an issue that was. I'm like, I didn't watch Eminem go through all this shit and have people smear his name all over the place, and these other artists and comedians too. And I didn't watch them go through all that shit for me to come up and have to fight the same fight of censorship that they already fought for and won, and then now we're backtracking, you
But
know
that's kind of how life works. I hate to say it because I thought
it is
I thought
definitely.
in the 80s that we had made a lot of progress, and then no, you were sadly mistaken. And it's just a big
Yeah,
pendulum that, okay,
yeah,
here we go.
yeah,
And it
yeah.
would be nice if we could find some middle ground, because not everything is offensive to everybody. And
Yeah.
you know, just because somebody is offended doesn't mean I just wait. Okay, as an author, this is where I'm going to go with this. As an author, when I picked up a book in the 80s, there was no
Hmm.
trigger warnings. You didn't
Yeah,
you didn't give out trigger warnings saying, "Oh, this is in this," because oh, somebody
hmm,
might be triggered. You read
yeah.
the book and that was it. You didn't like it, you didn't like it.
Yeah,
Now, oh no, I need a trigger warning because, this is in here. It's
and that's what bugs me, is that, like, you don't need a trigger warning. What you actually need is a stronger mind.
yeah.
You don't need a trigger warning. America's mentally weak, and it drives me crazy. And it's not one side or the other. It's both. It's everyone, not like every individual person, but this isn't like
Well,
exclusive to the left, the
when
right,
when when you
anything.
when you quit teaching critical thinking, you tend to, I don't want to say dumb down, but you dumb down not just the thinking, you
Definitely.
dumb down the emotions because oh, now
Absolutely.
everybody is so sensitive.
Hmm. Well, we've dumbed down the emotions. On one end of we've dumbed down the emotions of empathy and understanding, but we've amplified the
Hate.
anger, the jealousy, the hate, the rage. That's why, like, you see everyone, like, at each other's throats right now, and it's like this
Hmm.
has been a noticeable pattern. It's gotten worse and worse over the last 5 6 years. I think we really started to notice it around 2014, probably 15, 2015. um it's like, I think, I don't know, I you know what, I think the biggest problem in America is everyone running around saying, if you do this, this, and this, you're part of the problem.
Yeah.
And it's like, shut up, all y'all, regardless of what side you're on. If you're running around saying if you're doing this, and this, you're part of the problem, just stop. Just stop. You look like a buffoon every time you say it.
I mean, before my husband died, I would sit there and yes, I was sharing memes on Facebook. And after he died, it was like, I realized it's like, what are you doing? You're not changing anybody's opinion.
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah.
shouting into the void. You're saying things that nobody's listening to, and you're alienating people, and you're making
Yeah.
yourself aggravated. So why do it?
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah. Well, and kind of staying on the same subject, I think, talking about, people saying you're part of the problem, this and that, it's like everybody wants to be heard, but no one wants to listen. And that's the thing. Everyone goes into everything with such a closed mind. It's like, I have my mind made up. I'm not open to what you want to say because I have all the answers. So I
mhm.
got to explain to you why I'm right. And that's why everyone thinks about everything. And that's why we're so divided right now. And, you got people who's going to say, oh, well, we're so that's a divisive issue. Like, let me say this: there's no such thing as a divisive topic. There's no such thing that's made up. Topics don't divide people. Weak minds do. That's an excuse for people who don't have it in them to have a conversation with someone without getting triggered because they need a trigger warning, right? So there's no such thing as a divisive topic. Like, socialism is not divisive. Whether it's right or wrong, the right or wrong system, I don't know. That's another debate. But is it divisive? Absolutely not. Critical race theory, is it divisive? Absolutely not. Is it, do people try to make it divisive? Yeah, but the idea itself is not, because you can bring up any idea in the world, and if you can have a civil conversation about it, that means it's not divisive.
Well,
So it's just.
let's look at the vaccine for a second. And I know that's a
Hmm.
hot topic. So you have people
Yeah.
that are like, you need to take the vaccine because you're protecting the people that can't be vaccinated. Okay.
Hmm.
That's the big pitch, right? But then you
Hmm.
have the people saying, well, if you're not vaccinated, then you're a bastard. Well, wait a second. If you can't take the vaccine for whatever health reason,
Hmm.
then you're pissed off at me because I can't take the vaccine, which yeah, I'm
Hmm.
going to be honest. I have too many. My healthcare provider told me I am so allergic to so many things. She has not allowed me to take it yet because I also
Yeah.
have the heart issue and everything. So
Hmm.
I have to live in my little bubble, but
Yeah.
that's on me. But the fact is, I feel like I have a scarlet A because the vaccine crowd was like, well, you're Satan because you haven't been
Yeah.
vaccinated, and then oh
Hmm.
wait, you must be an anti-vaxxer. No.
See, and it's on both sides. Like, the vaccine is not a divisive issue.
No.
It's just people don't have the mental equipment
Mm-mm.
to handle a topic that they disagree with on the other side, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, and I don't know. I'm vaccinated, but I don't care if anyone is. I don't care. Like, if
Well, like I
I
said,
just
for
I
for me,
this is, everyone has to make their own decision on this, I
yeah.
think. Um, Now, I think a lot of people are not getting vaccinated for wrong reasons because they are listening to people tell them to not get vaccinated, and the people that are telling them to not get vaccinated actually are vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, what are y'all doing? But they're like, your situation, and I was talking to my grandma recently, and her and my grandpa were both on the fence if they were going to get it, because they're both in that older age. They've both had quite a few health issues in the past few years, so they don't. So it's like, I'm not gonna sit here and tell them, well, grandma, you need to get the vaccine. I'm like, well, I straight up told her the same thing I told you. Everyone needs. If you feel like you don't want to get the vaccine, that's your decision. Like, everyone has to make their own decision on this. And
And I mean,
I
for
don't know.
me, for me, it's a double. I have I have three doctors that I see on a regular basis, and all three of them have said
Mhm.
no for you, not right
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
not
You
until
probably
there's
should wait.
more information.
Yeah, yeah. See, that's the thing, is like, I totally get. I mean, I feel like that's the only valid reason to not get the vaccine, is like, I feel like there's two reasons. Like, you're unsure because of your health status, and if you're just like, I'm just gonna wait and see how this plays out for a minute before I get the vaccine, that's totally understandable.
Yeah,
If you're, I mean, because what, the vaccine's been out for a year almost. The
almost.
first the
Yeah.
first people started getting them vax last November, December, and then everyone else kind of like early early this year. But a year isn't a ton of time for uh research on this. I mean, it is whenever it comes to its efficiency, the efficacy of the vaccine, right? So we know at this point for sure the vaccines are more effective against preventing serious ailments from COVID against just your immune system. Like we know that to be a fact. So I feel like there's so many people saying, well, the vaccines don't work and this and that. And it's like, we know that that's not true. We have a year of evidence backing up that this vaccine works. But what we don't have is
The long-term effects.
the long-term side effects that may or may not be there.
And here's
So
it.
if,
And
so if you want to wait and see, dude,
this,
you gotta
this goes with
do it.
this goes with any medication. I mean, when they advertised, I think it was the Super Bowl ad years ago, they had toenail fungus cream, and then the
Mm,
podiatrist friend that I know, she's like, the day after the Super Bowl ad, it wasn't even on the market yet, but we had people calling, going, "Hey, we want that," and I'm like, "Well,
mhm.
when it comes out, it's $500 a tube. We don't care. We want it." Because it was on TV.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but then you roll back certain things. I mean, you were too little, but they had like a diet drug combination of Fin and something else, and
Hmm.
people went crazy. Well, then it ended up having heart problems. It was
See,
giving
here's
you
the thing,
problems.
and I'm gonna take this from a meme because it was a funny one to me. So there's a meme. I don't. I think it's. I think it's one with He-Man where he like gives you some news and then he rides off on the bike, right?
Mhm.
So the news is like he says, Remember, kids, every commercial that starts with if you took such and such medication, you may be entitled to compensation." All those were FDA approved at one point.
Mhm.
And also, as anybody alive in America should know, if you don't live under a rock, our government, our FDA, does not give a damn about safe food, none of that shit.
It's about
If you
money.
got money for the FDA, they will approve whatever you want them to approve. Everything is for sale in America. So you can't trust most entities here. And
Well,
that's just the reality that we live in.
and let's be honest here with when you're talking about up for sale, it's like the drug manufacturers, they make this stuff. They may run clinical tests, but they're not going to release all the clinical tests because they look at it this way. And if they do, even if somebody dies, well, let's see, that lawsuit, that's not going to be a chump change. We're going to make more
Yeah,
money with this drug than we are
yeah,
paying out
yeah,
lawsuits.
yeah.
I always laugh when one of those commercials come on, and it's like, I think the most recent one I saw was for bipolar, and it's like,
Hmm.
they start off with, "Oh, you can have this and this and this. The side effects may include mood swings," and I'm thinking to myself, "Well, wait a second,
Ain't that
we're
what it's
running."
for? Yeah.
And of course,
And
there was
see, that's
the laundry list of
yeah.
stuff, and it's like, really?
Yeah, and that's the thing is like all of our medication is like it doesn't treat the issue, it treats the side effects, right?
Well,
So if you have back pain, like the medicine treats the pain, not the problem. So the pain you might not feel it, but that problem is still there. And that's how, a metaphor for how all of our medicine, most of
well,
it, 90% of it works here.
here's a lovely story you'll love. I I have a thyroid issue, and the only reason I'm bringing this up is I've been on a medication. I went through a bunch of different medications. Finally, got on a medication that's been around since the 20s.
Hmm.
And about 2 years ago, right before COVID struck, they pulled it off the market, saying it wasn't. It was a natural drug, so therefore it has
Hmm.
to go through and be revetted by the FDA. So long about, I think, April of this year, you couldn't find it at
Hmm.
all. And the
Yeah.
vetting process is going to take 3 years. So everybody that was taking this drug, basically, either you get a compound similarity of it or you get nothing. We don't care that we pulled it off the market, leaving you in a lurch.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure Big Pharma had it because Big Pharma had to raise that stink to get this pulled by a smaller pharmaceutical company.
Yeah, because it's been around for so long that they can't make money off of it anymore.
Exactly. Exactly.
Not big bucks anyway.
No.
Pennies. But
Yeah.
they ain't after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
We always end up, last time we digressed into talking about South Park and everything, and now we're digressing into this. And I'm sure you're like, "Why
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
I didn't come on here to talk about this?" But
That's the way the conversation goes sometimes.
exactly. Well, is there anything, because I've taken up a little over an hour of your time, is there anything that we did not cover that you'd like to add?
We got cartoons, comedy, and coffee. That's my life in a nutshell right now.
Where can they find your show at?
So the best place to find us is so if you're on social media, Riot Comedy is our handle for everything. Riot Comedy on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. If you want to check out the Comedy Central show that we did, it's called The Lounge. You can go to Comedy Central's website and just search The Lounge in their search bar. It'll pop up for you. If you want to check out the coffee and start off your day with some natural energy and get things rocking, it's kormacafe.com, and that's Korma with a K. Yeah, so that's where you
And
can.
Ballers, where is that going to be able to be found?
Oh yeah, so Real Ballers is Riot Comedy. It's on all of our Riot Comedy pages online. So Instagram is our biggest one. YouTube, we're pretty active there. TikTok. But yeah, so and that new episode drops tomorrow.
Okay. All right, which will see, I believe this episode actually will be airing this week, so
Nice.
it'll already be
So
out.
it's already out. It's already out
Yeah.
for you guys. Riot Comedy, the new episode of Real Ballers. We're making fun of Kyrie Irving for not getting the vaccine.
And I have a friend who listens who loves the Bulls, so she may check it
Nice.
out. So thanks, Trenton.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate you.
The conversation with Trent was really an interesting conversation. Who knew you could make coffee out of date seeds? Although I have made ice cream out of dates, surprisingly enough. So the multi purposes of dates. I think that the reason behind why he did it, I think it's an excellent reason. And for those of you who can't have coffee, definitely check it out because it's a good alternative. And I know my husband was a coffee drinker, and when he couldn't have it, Senka just doesn't do it. So, check it out, see, explore it, see what it's like. I mean, it's not a bad thing, to try new things. And hey, if you like something sweet, he's got the coconut version. I wish I drank coffee, but I don't. But anyway, I think also the exploration into his animation journey. I mean, he's got the hustle down, he's got the grind, and I hope that he has some great success because it takes a lot to pursue your dreams and to keep at it and not give up. You know, being fearless, and I'm not saying fearless as just wild and woolly, but being fearless and going after your dream and pursuing it and grinding and working hard to what you can do and what you have to do, you know, to see the product, the finished product, and to see the growth is an amazing thing. I had somebody reach out recently to me and tell me how much the podcast has changed from the very beginning. And I know sometimes you've been listening maybe lately and say, well, wait, the episode's different. That's because the episode was older. So the newer episode, I found my, dare I say, I found my groove, and that's where I'm at now. So just with anything, and this is what I want to tell you guys, and it's the same thing he was saying too, is don't give up. Just keep doing it. Keep working at what you're doing and making it better because, you know, you're not going to be perfect the first time out. I have a friend who wants to start doing YouTube videos, but he is so up in his head that he's like, I can't do it. And it's like, just do it. I mean, when you look at technology, how we're embracing technology, which we talked about today as well, you have so many platforms and people are putting themselves out there and they're not perfect. Their hair's a mess sometimes. They're making a fool out of themselves, but they're doing it. They're putting themselves out there. So be honest with yourself, be fearless. Don't do anything that's detrimental, but put yourself out there, follow that dream, try to do something that you're passionate about because ultimately if you're not happy, then and you need to do something to make you happy. As we talked about with I think what's important too is that you when you're finding your passion you need to pursue, if it's writing then write, if it's drawing then draw. Understand it may not be this world renowned success, it may, but it may not. But whatever you do, if you're doing it and you're enjoying the passion of doing it and it makes you happy, then that's a reward in itself. Everything else is gravy. And that's the way you kind of have to look at it. Be fearless, pursue what you want to do, and embrace it. The one thing I will reiterate is yes, we talked about school and the problems with school, and that sometimes, yeah, you question whether it's worth it or not. But like I said on the podcast, stay in school. It's the thing you're supposed to do. And unfortunately, for most jobs, if you want a job, unless you're going to be in business for yourself, and that takes capital, you're going to need at least a high school diploma. So, you know, keep doing what you got to do to get where you are. And if there's kids listening, which I don't think there will be because I cursed it, I'm going to put an explicit warning on here. You know, stay true to yourself, find your passion and pursue it. But make sure that you're doing something for the right reasons. If you're doing it for fame and glory and not because you're really passionate about it, then don't do it. Do what fills your heart. And on that note, I mean, Trenton, I think he's going to have a bright future. I invited him back. So he has some things in the works that we're going to talk about again. I enjoyed the conversation and I hope you guys did too. So if you, as always, if you want to be a guest on the podcast, send me an email at donna@better2podcast.com. You can find all the episodes of the podcast at better2podcast.com. We also now have a little slight bend off of another show called Better Two Weekly Intuitive or Intuitive Weekly. It's a podcast where I do tarot oracle reading for the week. It's a generalized reading. That's something new. I've been doing cards for a long time and I have referred to it on the podcast. So that's something new that we offer as well. So I guess without further ado, you know where all the links are. They're in the show notes as well as on the better2podcast.com site. And all of Trenton's links are in the show notes as well. So on that note, catch you next time. Bye. You are listening to the Better 2 podcast with DM Needham.